So I should be sharing my screen, but we're moving on to unfinished business. So we're back on now to the Western View Parking Pass resolution. So the authors are able to introduce this now. Would the authors like to introduce this? Eric, our Vice President Eric, and Executive Vice President Jacoby.
Hello, everyone. So this was something that I found out about after I moved in here. My suite mate actually lived here last year and said that they were guaranteed a parking pass when they signed the contract. And upon moving, it was revoked because the contract basically said you would follow the parking rules, and the parking rules had since changed. So I figured this would be a good resolution because, as you can see, all the other off-campus departments that are listed offer free parking pass permits and everything like that. To me, it would make sense that it should be included in their rent if they would so choose to have that option. And Executive Vice President Wright agreed with me. So this was a resolution that we drafted together and have submitted to the Senate.
Rich McKee.
All right, now we can move into discussion over this resolution. Is there anyone who would like to speak? If no one would like to, oh, never mind. I can't find the chat, sorry. Executive Vice President Jacoby, you can speak.
I would just like to make a motion to amend this resolution to correct it to a university bill number 2020-21-001.
Second.
Did my screen disappear for everybody?
Affirmative.
All right, give me one moment.
Take your time, girl. We got until 5:30.
Is it back for everyone?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so we wanted to change, did you say resolution to university bill?
Yes, University Bill dash 2020-2021-001. And the resolution's also listed right above. Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right. Is there anything else, or do we vote on amendments?
Yeah, there's discussion on the amendment and then a vote.
So we're in discussion now about making this a university bill rather than it is a resolution. So would anyone like to speak on that? Oh, Vice President Henry.
I moved the previous question.
All right, the previous question has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
We need 2/3 of a vote for this.
Ms. Cabinet abstain.
Yes, ma'am. Waiting on 4 more people. Madam Speaker, would you like a time limit placed?
We can give them 10 more seconds from now.
Sounds good. Would you like a permanent time limit in place for all voting?
1 minute and yeah, 1 minute. 1 minute.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay, so that now ends discussion, and now we can move into a vote on the amendment itself, not the entire potentially university bill.
Point of order, was there any discussion on the overall document other than the amendment?
We moved the previous question.
Oh, this is just on discussion about the amendment itself. We haven't discussed the whole bill yet. We're not on that part.
Point of information, were the parking fees included in the initial budget discussions for these buildings?
Vice President Eric, are you able to answer this?
4 seconds.
So we approved the amendment, but Vice President Eric, did you hear the senator's question?
Can the question please be re-asked?
Absolutely. Regarding the budget discussions and obviously finalization of budget, were the parking passes considered in that budget? In other words, was this a budgeted item that being included was meant to be a part of the overall cost?
Yes, to my knowledge, like when they originally had it, it was not an additional charge for the apartments.
Perfect.
It was simply included in the rent.
Thank you very much.
All right, now we are back in discussion of the document as a whole. So with that, is there anyone who would speak next? Or Henry? Or Vice President Henry? Or my, Vice President Henry, were you having a discussion point?
No, I moved the previous question. That was my,
Second.
There's a second, so we go into voting on that. All right, we have voted to end discussion, and now we're going to go into voting as on the bill as a whole. All right, the bill has passed. Now we continue on with old business. Let me figure out how to share my screen for this. All right, next we are on the on-campus apartments meal plan resolution. If the author could present this.
It's me again, everyone. You're gonna get tired of my voice by the end of this meeting. I apologize in advance. So something that I found out moving into the apartments, and I had emailed dining services about this previous to writing this resolution, or University Village should be. I'd like to amend that as well once we get to discussion. But on-campus apartments are not eligible for a residence hall style meal plan. We have to purchase a commuter meal plan even though we live on campus. Furthermore, you can only buy it in blocks, so I can buy 100 meals for the semester. I don't know how many of those I'm going to utilize, and you're not allowed to get refunded anything at the end of the semester of which you don't use. To me, this seems to be a pretty unfair and inefficient system, so I feel it would be easier to not necessarily get rid of the commuter plan for apartment students, they're more than welcome to, but also to enable apartment residents to have a residence hall style meal plan and to change the name of residence hall meal plans to on-campus resident meal plans. That way it's encompassing anyone that lives on campus. Because as I mentioned, even though I live on campus, I'm not a commuter, but I have to get a commuter meal plan.
Awesome. So we're going to move into discussion over this resolution. Does anyone have anything to discuss? Senator Elijah.
I just want to say point of information, as of why it's kind of like that, because I've had personal meetings with the resident manager as the supervisor, and it should be, I'm not trying to look for it now because it should be online, but the reason as to why they give you the commuter package is because technically, and they also set this when COVID first hit, the reason as to why is because we're given like an actual like apartment style living, that typically the majority of the people that live in the apartments actually shop for their food and go get their food. So it didn't make much sense to, whereas people in the dorms, they don't really have like refrigerators and stuff like that, which is why it's different that way. Not excusing anything, but just as that's the information that I have personally been told as to why it's a commuter. We will get a commuter deal and not like full semester or everything else is because of our current living situation. I yield back to the floor. I believe that was all I have to say, right?
Would anyone, Vice President Eric.
Thank you for that insight. I just want to restate what I said earlier, though this doesn't take that option away from them. It just adds another option on, so that way they can use that residence style meal plan if they like. Because for example, myself, I do not have a car. I don't exactly trust public transit right now. So the dining halls is my only way to get food. And I know that there's got to be other students in the same place.
Senator De Unique, if I pronounce that right, I'm sorry.
You're good. It's unique. Was
Unique.
yeah. So I have a question because I completely agree with this, and I stay in Valley 1, which has a kitchen like behind me, but I noticed, so for me, I don't use all 14 meals of the gold plan in their dining centers, and so this semester I want to cancel it and get a commuter meal plan. That way I would have the different flexibility. So like if I did want to cook, and then if I did want to use the meal plans. So but when I called, they said that because I'm still on campus, I cannot get the commuter meal plan, even though I'm not going to be using all of the resident meal plans in the VDC. So I was wondering if this resolution would consider offering, or like if this resolution probably doesn't, but would it be flexible to kind of make it where anyone who lives in like even the dorms to be able to get either meal plan that they desired or feel it was best fit for their needs?
Madam Speaker, may I respond? So this university bill would not directly address that issue. If you'd like, you can make a formal amendment to add that in or write your own university bill. I'd be happy to collaborate with you on that. If you're free to shoot me an email, but this bill does not directly cover that incident. With that, I yield.
Next is Vice President Alexis.
Thank you. I was just going to kind of build off of what Unique was saying before, is that there is in Valley 1, there is one residence hall that does allow for students to live in their residence halls to not have a meal plan at all. I do see the need for what she was talking about as well, and how maybe that can be a separate amendment, because I'm not sure, a separate bill of its own, because I'm not sure it'd fit in here. But moving back to this one, I would say that because the people in the dorms have that option, if they stay in a specific dorm, and that's something that the university is pretty upfront about at the forefront of signing your contract, is that if they have that option, then why wouldn't the apartments also have kind of the opposite? Like they kind of fit hand in hand, in my opinion. So with that, I yield.
Next we have Senator Elijah. Senator Elijah, would you like to speak again?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to type and my stuff was glitching out. No, not anymore. Thank you.
Next we have Executive Vice President Jacoby.
Make a motion to amend this resolution to a university bill, number 2021-002.
Second.
So we move into discussion to move this or make this a university bill first, I believe. So Vice President Eli would like to speak.
I just moved the previous question.
The previous question has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, then there will be a vote on that.
Consent.
Oh, consent has been called.
Second.
All right, cool. Then we're back on discussion of the bill overall. Vice President Eli.
I just moved the previous question.
The previous question has been moved. Is there a second?
Second,
All right, then we can move to a vote.
consent.
Second.
Consent called, and there's a second. All right, cool. Then we can move on to the next portion of our unfinished business. Let me figure out how to pull that up.
Point of information, does consent require a second, or does it just require nobody to be in opposition?
It's
No
correct. Yeah.
objections.
It's technically is there a second? I mean, it technically does not need a second. It just means there's no objection. But I just would want to caution us because we're still new. There's some new senators that aren't really comfortable with Parley Pro. I think we're moving a little bit too quickly. So because people are getting lost, and I know the energy's down because like what the hell just happened earlier, and so I would just advise that just give a little bit. Yep, just explain what those things mean in layman's terms as you just keep moving along. So.
Okay, that makes sense. So consent is like all of us agreeing, and if like you don't consent, obviously you can say like no, and then we would have to take a vote on it instead of just completely going through the bill and going on to the next thing. I'll try and explain better as we go. I'm new to this too.
Nope, you walked into this too, so you're doing fine. So just, you know, especially when we get into like moving the previous question, different things like that. But you're doing fine.
Is the sidewalk extension resolution up for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So now we're gonna go into this if the author could present it.
Hey y'all, it's me again. So, for this resolution, as many of you may or may not know, the intramural sports fields are not directly connected from a sidewalk from the Valley Dining Center, and there is no crossing area where there is a sidewalk. It would also be inefficient to put a crossing area in because you would need to cross over from the VDC, cross the street, then walk down and cross back to the intramural sports field. So I figured it'd be simpler to extend the sidewalk, especially since those rocks that you have to climb over, or not climb over, but step on and crumble through to get to the beaten down dirt where everyone has walked through, can become rather dangerous, especially during hours of high traffic volume, as mentioned in the resolution. But also as an intramural sports official for flag football, we do play in winter and it does get snowy and icy, and I don't know how many people I've seen slip and fall, and it's only a day or two until someone slips and falls into the street and the car's coming. So I wanted to and try to improve the safety on campus by pushing this resolution through. You'll note that the deadline I put on the university is by the end of summer 2. Hopefully intramural sports will be back by fall. This would allow for that to be in place by then and ensure that our students are safe while still being able to exercise and participate in team sports at a recreational level. With that, I yield.
Awesome. We're gonna move into discussion if anyone would like to speak. Alexis, or Vice President Alexis.
Thank you. I want to make a motion to amend what is written here to include that accessibility is also a key factor in this. That the parking lots mentioned, 97 and 81 are also used primarily by those in Valley 3. I know because I lived there my freshman year, and I personally am not disabled, but there are disabled folks who live in that building, and having accessibility for them to be able to get from either of those two lots to Valley 3, the VDC, or the intramural fields is important. That I yield.
Point of information, potentially.
Yeah.
The first line does say that they are not accessible from the Valley Dining Center and vice versa. So I believe that accessibility would be covered in the resolution as proposed.
I think where it says whereas student safety is the primary concern of Western Michigan University, I think we could do student safety and inclusivity or accessibility, whichever could be included.
So what would you like put in?
Move to amend the motion by adding the word safely accessible.
For me not to know how to spell. Is this adequate? Is this how we're feeling? We'd have to go into discussion about this amendment.
Point of information, I believe the original amendment proposed by Vice President Alexis was to have in the fourth whereas statement, whereas student safety is the primary concern, add in whereas student safety, inclusivity, and accessibility are the primary concern of Western Michigan University.
Okay, so then we'd have to go into discussion about that.
Point of information, I believe it should be, I believe Vice President Alexis said are instead of is the primary concern.
Is there any discussion about this? If there's no discussion, we can go into a vote on this amendment to make it safety, inclusivity, and accessibility are the primary.
Are we voting? Or do we need to move the motion?
I didn't think if anyone talked, then we moved into the vote on the amendment, but I could be wrong.
Okay, consent.
All right, consent has been called. Does anyone disagree? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so now we're back on the discussion of the document as a whole. Vice President Henry, you did ask to speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to support this resolution. I can't vote, but like Eric, I have previously been a official for flag football and have been one of the people that has fallen on those rocks and hurt myself. And it was not a good experience, especially after it was raining for like 3 hours and cold. And also I think, intramural sports is something that is really fun for students, and the university historically has not, like many things, supported it financially like they need to. So hopefully this is a step to kind of make sure students are being put first with safety.
All right, is there any other discussion points about the resolution as a whole?
I'd like to make a formal amendment
All right,
to change it to University Bill number 2021-003.
Second.
so then do we move into discussion with formal amendments? Okay, so is there a discussion on this formal amendment of changing it to a university bill?
Motion to move the previous question.
The previous
Second.
second, all right. So then is there consent on this, or should we vote?
Consent.
That has been called, and we can do a second if there's no disagreement. You feel good about this?
Second the consent.
Because I mean, we don't technically have to second it, but now it's just been a thing with us. Okay, cool. So this one has also been approved. Let me write that down. So with that, I do believe we are able to move into our new business. Right?
Point of information or point of order. I believe that the last consent was only for the amendment to pass, not for the bill as a whole.
Motion to move the previous question.
All right, the previous
Second,
it's been second. Is there a consent?
Consent.
Consent has been called. Is there a potential consent to that? Consent's been called. We're good. All right, so now let's go to the agenda. So we finished our unfinished business, and then next on the agenda is committee breakouts, which we do not have those yet. It will be sent out to you shortly with a cute little thing. Oh, allocations. That is not on the agenda, but we did previously send out the stuff for you to go over beforehand. So do we want to go into that? Like, someone make a motion to put that on.
motion to amend the agenda to include the allocations bylaws.
Second.
All right, there is second. Is there a consent?
Point of
Consent.
order. Allocation bylaws were sent to the House. They were never sent to the Senate as a read only.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so these have to go through the House before they go through the Senate.
Okay. So yes.
So it's not necessary that we do it today.
Okay. So let's just forget that happened, and we're gonna go into the next stuff. Committee breakouts, that will be going out to you in an email as like a little survey to fill out, so I can place you what's best for you. Now we're gonna move into new business, which is confirmation of cabinet members. First would be Vice President for Finance and Business Relations, Eric Effinger. I don't exactly know how we're running these. Do you want to give a brief introduction?
So, hi everyone, my name's Eric Effinger. I am a double major in aviation flight science and aviation management and operations with a double minor in general business and German. I have been acting Vice President for Finance and Business Relations since the end of spring. I have been filling out the role as needed up until official confirmation due to the interim and legislative sessions. As you can tell, I just wrote 3 university bills with 4 more coming next week, hopefully. So I'm definitely really involved in WSA. I started as a representative last fall, moved up to senator last spring due to scheduling conflicts, and now I am here. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, so next is like this question, yeah. Does anyone have any questions for Eric? Is that a no from anyone? If there's no questions, then we can move into discussion on Eric, which I do believe get kicked for that. I will be honest, I don't know what I'm doing.
I do believe I do get kicked out, but since I am the host, I can't. So if you guys want, I will go step into another room. And Jacoby, can you give me a call when you're done?
Wilco.
Thanks.
Okay, so with that, we'll move into discussion over Eric. If anyone would like to speak, first would be Vice President Henry.
Yeah, and I want to preface this with saying that I'm on cabinet, so, take that for what you will. But I've been involved with WSA since the spring of my freshman year, so about 3 years or 2.5 years. Eric is probably one of the most capable and, best people I think we've had in WSA throughout that time. He was a rep last year, and we disagreed on a number of things and got into some, not arguments, but, had some lively debate. And I think that's really, what this organization needs. And on the back end of things, he's been really flawless in getting things done. So, I mean, I can't say enough good things about Eric.
All right, next we have Vice President Ruby.
I would also like to preface I am on cabinet, but I met Eric during Senate last year, and I was shocked that it was his first year at Western. He was so lively in Senate. He actively participated and just brought so much to the table. And even as acting, very long title that he holds, it's just been incredible. Like, all these meetings are all Eric. So to see him not get confirmed would be a bummer.
Next, actually, does anyone else like to speak about Eric? If not, we can move into voting, which we would need Eric back for, I believe. Or do I also?
Eric, you should be able to do it as co-host.
Oh. Okay, so I think there's a vote in progress. Yeah, people are voting. Cool. So in favor is approving him, opposition is not approving him.
Madam Speaker,
Yeah.
I just want to say you're doing a great job.
Kind of information.
Yeah.
Going forward with some of the other items we have, is there a mechanism with the voting to abstain that is possible?
I don't believe it's possible. Because I think we were talking last year at some point saying that there's like little conflicts of interest. Does anyone want to answer this question?
What was the question?
A yield, unless you would like me to restate.
Restate your question, please.
Yeah, sure. Regarding the voting, there's no mechanism to abstain. Is that something that can be added for some of the future items?
So we, I believe this was the first meeting. We discussed that we were not going to count the abstentions because they would just count as not a vote. So that would be up to Aaron or Eric if they wanted to add the abstention vote into the option.
Thank you, Ms. Eagle.
I'll add on to that. As of right now, I don't know how to add that, but that can be definitely something for the future. But I do not know at this point. I'm also gonna.
Excuse me, Speaker.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but my internet has been kicking me in and out of the group. So what are we voting on in particular right now?
Oh, approving Eric Effinger to be our.
Okay.
Yep, you got the gist. All right. I'm gonna close the voting now. That's cool with everybody. Okay. So he has been approved to become the next, our current vice president of his job. He's being called now to come back in. I'll move on to the next person. We have the Vice President for Information Technologies, Charles Poole, third. Wait.
Point of information, It is 5:30. Should a motion be made to adjourn the meeting as there are House of Representatives waiting to start that meeting?
Yes.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right.
Consent.
Consent. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right.
Are there any against consent?
Yep. Is there any opposition?
Is there any opposition to consent?
Hearing none, seeing none.
All right. With that, we are adjourned at 5:30.